Does any member wish to speak? Pursuant to the previous announcement, the committee will come to order. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on the resolution? I'll be patient. I'll recognize myself, lest we lose the time. Today we have had ample debate on the question of a straightforward resolution. Did Ms. Lois Lerner on May 30th, 2013, in all or part, proceed after asserting her Fifth Amendment privilege, and if so, did she waive? That will be the question to be decided in the vote that will come momentarily. It is my assertion that she did. Having heard the debate, I have not changed my position, and I will reserve pending. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you know,
would you like to move to strike the last word on the resolution before us?
I would, yep.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I do want to note for the record that I originally requested time on the amendment. That time has been denied me, but nothing I can do about that now. I do agree this is a serious question before the committee. We have balancing interests here. One is we certainly need to be able to call witnesses before this committee and expect the truth. I think that's at the very core of our ability to conduct meaningful oversight and reasonable oversight. And that certainly is essential, especially to this committee and the role that it plays. On the other hand, there is a constitutional right in the Fifth Amendment to have a witness avoid self-incrimination, and that's extremely important as well. And I, for one, believe, I know the gentleman from Florida spoke earlier today. He was seemingly offended that American citizens might come before this committee and thumb their nose at their government. I think that is a constitutional right, to thumb your nose at the government. And I think, considering the fact that Congress's favorability ratings are about 6%, there's probably a lot of Americans that would use a different finger with respect to Congress today.
Is the gentleman referring to the upcoming parades?
I'm not sure what you mean.
But don't you get waved at in your parade?
Oh, yeah, obviously, yeah, reclaiming my time. But no, I think in light of the scandals, not only with the IRS but with the NSA, I think a lot of Americans seriously doubt the integrity of some of their governmental institutions, including our own. But this hearing does not set the precedent that the gentleman from Florida spoke of earlier. We have not had a hearing on this. We have not done the meaningful investigation that would explain to the Court. And look, we assume that there will be a contempt citation issued by this Congress. It will be appealed to the Court, and at some point the Court will look and they will say, how did Congress arrive? How did the committee, first of all, on government reform, arrive at this decision that Ms. Lerner was in contempt? and they will look at the underlying record. That's what they'll look at. What is the reasonableness and what is the thoroughness of Congress's inquiry? I disagree with the gentleman's earlier statement, the Chairman's statement, that we have had a lot of public debate about this. We have not had debate in this committee over this. We have not had one word. We've had debate over this motion, but we have not had witnesses. We have not had constitutional scholars come in and inform the decisions of the members. You have a lot of non-lawyers here, non-constitutional lawyers. And I think they will find that our decision was based on political considerations and not on meaningful inquiry and thorough oversight. So I think what we're doing here today will doom our efforts to hold Ms. Lerner accountable, because we haven't done the oversight. We haven't provided the underpinnings for our decision to be upheld at the court level. We're playing into their hands by not having the hearings, because I think we could. Look, I think you get some votes on this side if this was handled correctly. That you would have people who, justifiably agree with the way, at least inartful way, that Ms. Lerner came forward and asserted her Fifth Amendment rights. But I think that's all being wiped out by a political process. This is supposed to be a legislative process, an investigative process, and it has been none of that. We have not had the meaningful, deliberative process that I think would give weight to our decision. That's a failing of this process today. This will not be precedential. It will not. We should have a decision that has precedent on how a witness must act before this committee. We're not going to get that from this process, because there's been no underlying decision. No underlying credibility lent to this process. This has been just a political process, and I regret that. So I will vote against this, but not because on the merits, but because of the lack of process that we have had here, and that we really haven't done an investigation on this issue. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. I now move the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform approve the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes.
You indicated at the earlier portion of this hearing that all members would have time.
I never said all members. Does the gentleman seek recognition?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this back-and-forth political bickering is an embarrassment. The gentleman from Florida, Mr. Mica, said earlier that this is a showdown. It's more like showing off. It's the same grandstanding we've seen repeatedly in this committee. The Chairman continues to focus this committee on divisive hearings and witch hunts rather than identifying solutions to make reforms to government programs and agencies. Mr. Chairman, instead of bringing up a resolution to challenge a person's right to plead the Fifth, why aren't we bringing forward a resolution to require the IRS to bring their 501c4 regulation primarily into compliance with Federal law, which says exclusively? This is no longer just about Lois Lerner. There are clearly problems at the IRS. That much is clear. But, Mr. Chairman, instead of this resolution, why aren't we following up to the 9 recommendations that the Inspector General has already made to guarantee that the targeting that happened to both conservative and liberal groups never happens again? Mr. Chairman, these are the issues the American people want us to focus on, not more partisan bickering and gridlock. Until we focus on solutions, Congress will continue to be held in the lowest of regards among the American public. And I, for one, don't want to be part of tearing this institution down, but building it up. But the American people are rightfully upset with us.
Excuse me, will the gentleman yield?
No, I will not.
Will the gentleman yield?
No, I will not. The American people are rightfully upset with us, and it's because of what we're doing here today. If this resolution were to pass, what type of precedent are we setting? Who are we in this committee to take away anyone's constitutional right? What happened to those who were targeted was wrong, and this resolution does nothing to fix it. This process is completely improper, and nothing more than an opportunity to grandstand, so I will oppose the motion.
Will the gentleman yield?
Well, the
Will the gentleman
gentleman,
yield?
since,
No, I will not.
I was just curious as to what,
No, I will.
if there
I have
was
not yielded
targeting,
my
what is
time.
the witch hunt?
I have not yielded, Mr. Chairman.
well, Mr. Chairman,
That we'll have regular order. It's the gentleman's time.
Thank you.
the gentleman.
There are
the gentleman's
there
time.
are 9
It's the gentleman's time.
recommendations within the Inspector General report that we have not taken any time to follow up on or implement. We have heard from the new acting commissioner from the IRS that their regulation is, in fact, out of compliance with federal law. We have taken no action to bring forward a resolution directing the IRS to do its job to update that regulation so that it's in compliance with federal law. We have taken no action to reform the other aspects of the IRS agency, which there is agreement on both sides needs to be fixed. All I'm asking for, Mr. Chairman, is for us as the members of this body to do our job. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not here to decide whether or not this resolution taking away someone's constitutional right is proper. But what I am here is as a representative of my constituents, and they didn't send me here to take away the rights of people. They sent me here to represent them and to make sure their government does a better job in serving them. And today, Mr. Chairman, this resolution does them no service.
Would the gentleman yield to the chair, please?
Yes.
I take no exception to your right to your opinion. I might suggest that this resolution is on whether or not the gentlelady, when she appeared, gave away her rights. That's what waiving would be. We have no intention of taking away the rights. I might also, if you don't mind, mention that a later consideration of contempt and other proceedings would be a point at which any action against her would be taken. Today, we're simply considering, on advice of counsel, whether she waived, and I appreciate the gentleman yielding.
Thank you. May I reclaim my time? The issue with the opinion, which the committee members on our side just were able to review, is that it's not even conclusive. There is nothing conclusive in the legal opinion that questions the witness's Fifth Amendment. In fact, it says, had they continued in their testimony and responded to questions from members, that's not what the witness did. They gave an opening statement. They refused to answer any further, and they were excused by the chair. So that alone should be why this resolution is not passed and why we should get back to the work of what this committee should really be focused on, which is government reform.
We now go to the gentlelady from Wyoming. For what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the fact that Mr. Gowdy put this entire committee on notice of his concern that Ms. Lerner had waived her constitutional right against self-incrimination on the day that she appeared before this committee and gave testimony, I move the previous question.
The previous question is ordered. All those in favor say aye.
Chairman,
Anyone no?
may I be heard?
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question now is, it doesn't matter. The previous question is a preemptive. The question is now on approval of resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The amendment is, the resolution is agreed to. This committee stands adjourned. But we have to ask for it.
Roll call.
A roll call being ordered. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Issa.
Yes.
Mr. Issa votes aye. Mr. Micah. Mr. Micah votes aye. Mr. Turner. Mr. Turner votes aye. Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan votes aye. Mr. McHenry.
Aye.
Mr. McHenry votes aye. Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan votes aye. Mr. Chaffetz. Mr. Chaffetz votes aye. Mr. Wahlberg.
Aye.
Mr. Wahlberg votes aye. Mr. Lankford.
Yes.
Mr. Lankford votes aye. Mr. Mosh. Mr. Mosh votes aye. Dr. Gosar. Dr. Gosar votes aye. Mr. Meehan. Mr. Meehan votes aye. Dr. Desjardins. Dr. Desjardins votes aye. Mr. Gowdy. Mr. Gowdy votes aye. Mr. Farenthold. Yes. Mr. Farenthold votes aye. Mr. Hastings. Aye. Mr. Hastings votes aye. Mrs. Lummis.
Aye.
Mrs. Lummis votes aye. Mr. Woodall. Mr. Massey?
Aye.
Mr. Massey votes aye. Mr. Collins? Mr. Collins votes aye. Mr. Meadows? Mr. Meadows votes aye. Mr. Bentivolio? Mr. Bentivolio votes aye. Mr. DeSantis? Mr. DeSantis votes aye. Mr. Cummings? Mr. Cummings votes no. Mrs. Maloney? Ms. Maloney votes no. Ms. Norton?
No.
Ms. Norton votes no. Mr. Tierney? Mr. Tierney votes no. Mr. Clay? Mr. Clay votes no. Mr. Lynch?
No.
Mr. Lynch votes no. Mr. Cooper? No. Mr. Cooper votes no. Mr. Connolly?
No.
Mr. Connolly votes no. Ms. Spear?
No.
Ms. Spear votes no. Mr. Cartwright? Mr. Pocan? Mr. Cartwright?
No.
Mr. Cartwright votes no. Mr. Pocan?
No to McCarthy.
Mr. Pocan votes no.
Pardon me, are you voting no to what?
I'm voting no to the McCarthyite tactics that we're having today, that our side isn't even allowed to finish talking about. So I'm voting no.
Continue.
Ms. Duckworth?
No.
Ms. Duckworth votes no. Ms. Kelly?
No.
Ms. Kelly votes no. Mr. Davis? Mr. Davis votes no. Mr. Welch? Mr. Welch votes no. Mr. Cardenas? Mr. Horsford?
No.
Mr. Horsford votes no. Ms. Luann Grisham?
No.
Ms. Luann Grisham votes no.
How is Mr. McHenry recorded?
Mr. McHenry is recorded as voting aye.
And Mr. Woodall, how is he recorded?
Mr. Woodall has not been recorded.
Is there anyone else that seeks recognition to vote?
Sir, you are recorded voting aye.
The clerk will report.
On that vote, Mr. Chairman, 22 ayes, 17 noes.
The resolution is agreed to. The resolution finding Lois Lerner waived her Fifth Amendment privileges on May 22, 2013 is approved, and we stand adjourned.